Want entertainment designed just for you? Then check out customizable streaming TV from Xfinity. It makes your life simple, easy, awesome.
Xfinity gives you customizable streaming TV options. Enjoy the most free shows anywhere on any device, and even access your streaming apps right on your TV with X1. Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today to learn more. Restrictions apply.
Plan of attack.
Banks have become an essential threat to our democracy. So consider this justice.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the internet. Please help support this station so this battle can continue forward. Revolution Radio! The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Welcome to Sacred Matrix, a divine paradigm of love and universal consciousness, with your host, Janet Kira Lessin and Dr. Sasha Lessin.
Together, we transform the world.
And now, here are your hosts, Janet Kira and Dr. Sasha Lessin.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio at revolution.radio. And I'm your host, Janet Kira Lessin, with my co-hosts, Dr. Sasha Alex Lessin. And today we have producer Thomas Becker. I'm sorry, I was turning down my sound. It was too loud. And we also have our special guest, James-Rink. And I don't know if anybody else is with us. I think that's it today. Yes, okay. The gang's all here. So James is a meditation practitioner, researcher, author, and video producer. And as a former super soldier, James-Rink understands programming and trauma as explained on his online YouTube presence with over 10,000 subscribers. His Super Soldier Talk YouTube series has helped awaken humanity to the secret activities of the covert government, uncovering topics such as brainwashing, trauma, MILABs, which stands for military abductions, and covert harassment, all of which he has had to endure his entire life as a product of Project-Surrogate and Ultra MK MILAB Super Soldier experimentation. And he has a book called Lone Wolf, which chronicles these projects. So I have a bio up for James on AquarianRadio.com. I invite you to go over there and read further and see what James looks like. So before we bring on James, and we're very happy to have him here, we're trying to get him for a long time, finally found him. Sasha, Dr. Lessin, what would you like to say?
Yeah, James, there's some things I'm really very, very interested in. One of the things, when you, I'm a hypnotist, and when you start uncovering the layers of, people will start with their dreams, and then that will enter into the different kinds of screen memories. And one of the most interesting things are the to me, are the things that the screen memories that MILABs give you to make you think that it was an alien and all this kind of stuff. And I'm particularly interested in how people can tell whether they're
all right,
doing a MILAB thing. Yeah, you got it.
Okay. First of all, we need to look at what these screen memories are. Now, I know there's some information out there about how they insert and cover up certain memories, but this is what it appears is going on. essentially, there are multiple parallel realities where you are also living and existing at the same time. So what the MIB, well, this is the case at least with the MIB, the Men in Black, what they do is typically they take memories. Okay, so let's say you were abducted by maybe some Draco, and they did some blood drinking ritual, and they erased your memories and put you back. And then you started to what they would do as far as the racial process, they would get memories of when you weren't abducted in the other timeline, and they would superimpose that into your own memories, so that way when you go back into your past, you won't ever remember this, because it is your memories, but it's from another timeline. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. It's just that I also want to know, Preston Nichols says at the beginning of the split for a lot of people that wind up in the SSP programs is some sexual trauma, which the people in the Montauk chair actually induced in people, and I wonder if that's being induced in super soldiers too.
Well, as far as the process is concerned, I mean, certainly back in the 1970s when Montauk first, well, I wouldn't say it first came online, it was most likely going on earlier than that, but it was really it was extremely abusive and traumatic back then. Into the 80s and later 90s and going forward into the future, they perfected into a science where they don't necessarily have to traumatize even like physical trauma. It doesn't even have to be sexual trauma, apparently. I'm sure certain groups love that kind of stuff. Certainly like Monarch, they do all that stuff anyway. They don't need to, but they do it. But as far as like inserting memories around, at least when the case with me as a super soldier, what they would do is they would put you in what is known as the 13 cube, and it doesn't exactly look like a cube. I'm not quite sure why. I need to investigate why they call it 13 cube. It actually looks like a pyramid, and it goes over your head, and then there's the pyramid is connected to wires to a computer, and they can change things around from those other timelines. So, it's a very sophisticated process, and there's femto technology involved. They shoot you up with femtonites, which are smaller than the nanites. They don't use nanites anymore. But anyway, it all kind of depends on what direction you want to take this.
How do you get free? How do you get out of their programming?
Good question. All right, so unfortunately, I think the reason why the ACIO, who I interviewed Peter through the ACIO, and I try to bring give him a lot of time on my shows, and the ACO has access to a very extremely advanced technology. However, I can't recall a time when a representative from the ACO.
ACO stand for?
Good question. Advanced Intelligence Contact Agency. That's the official one. Unofficially, which pretty much everybody uses there, is the Alien Contact Intelligence Organization. Alien Intelligence Contact Organization. But so the thing is, they don't know. They don't know. It apparently, maybe there's some group of ETs out there, maybe some Andromedans or some Palladians who have the technology to reverse what was done. But once you start talking about splitting your consciousness into different clones and avatars, and you've got other parallel realities where you're also doing the same thing, multi-dimensional aspects, it's going to take a lot more than a shrink at that point, and some whatever Zoloft or whatever they do antipsychotics is probably what they want a lot of these
right,
people.
Well.
What's interesting?
Does therapy help though? I'm asking you a question. Then back to you. Does therapy help when you get somebody like a hypnotist that can take you down and do catharsis and reprogramming? Have you found that to be effective?
Yeah, actually, I have. Now, I've done hypnosis a couple times, and every time I've gathered more information. We could explore some of what I recalled, if that's what you want to take. That's where you want to take this. As far as maybe
go back a little bit. Sasha launched right into questions about, but I usually have everybody tell their own story for a little bit there, because you're in a slightly different audience right here. So maybe we could take this back a few steps, and then we can go into the details of everything. So let's start with, who you are, your first memories of it, how you got into it, when you became aware you were into it, and all that stuff.
All right. So I guess this really began for me back in 2005. And around the time I was, I grew up in I was at that point, I give everybody, tell everyone my age, I was 25 back then. And so I grew up in a very Southern Baptist household. And although my mom, my father's side, they were all into that. My mom, she was more into the new agey aspects of everything. So when I came to a certain age, when I realized when I was falling asleep in church every Sunday, I realized that there's got to be something else out there. So it stopped being interest to me, and that's when I started investigating the Illuminati and so on. And I was investigating numerology. And at that time, I was friends with Nathan Wilder, and he reported some very unusual psychic abilities. Of course, being Southern Baptist, we were always told that was demonic and evil, but I didn't really see him being demonic and evil. Now, Nathan claimed he could now, I did not actually see this. However, I did see he claimed he could see your aura. He said mine was green and gold, and he said he could telekinetically move bowling balls around, and he would also had super strength, and he would one day I was just joking, so why don't you read up the story about Andy Perot? Now, Andy Perot was another one of these super soldiers that came out of Montauk. If you've looked anything about Preston Nichols and what was going on in the early 90s, he talked a lot of some of the programming that went on at Rochester University there. But so I mentioned that to Nathan, and that's when his so-called alters started coming out, which is the dissociative states of his mind. And each one of these alters, actually, what was really kind of curious is that during the time that I knew Nathan, sometimes we would chat online, basically, and he claimed he would have a friend come over with a different name, and these friends had. But the point I'm trying to get to is that these friends that he was bringing over were actually him, and going into these altars is what appears is what was going on. So he was constantly extremely dissociative. All right, so what happened is I mentioned that, and then he said he rebelled. And then they put him in a white room and they deleted his memories. And then he said he activated my DNA. And then I could do everything that he could do. He claimed that he destroyed the Gray's monetary system, whatever that is. I didn't think they used money, but maybe some kind of trading system, some computers. He said he telekinetically destroyed some planets. Now, they do put these super soldiers into VR type settings, so maybe they can get. Not me. They sometimes can have grandiose kind of thought thinking processes, but so what? And then at that time, I started getting needle marks. I would wake up. I would sleep in I had a mummy sleeping bag, and sometimes when I would sleep in that thing, I would have claw marks down my shoulder. I would wake up with triangular shaped scabs, 3-pronged needle marks, and then. It happened maybe 2 or 3 times a week. Then it went up to once a day. Then it got up to like 2 times a day. Then one time it was like 7 times a day. So you get the scabs and the scoop marks and all that. I've got tons of pictures that I documented all this over the years. So let's go fast forward to around March of 2005. Nathan messages me. He says that they captured him and they're holding his essence behind some kind of force field, and that he's holding a power cord, telecommunicating to me through this power cord over the internet to me, what he claims, and then that he won't ever see me again. I guess that's it, and that he's dying. And he said he might be reborn in something else. Well, fast forward, after that I never heard from him again. Fast forward a year and a half later, I found Nathan posting poems on a poetry website about killing women. He claimed he was some entity called Dapuka. And it was very disturbing type imagery he was describing in these poems. So I reached out to him, asked him, "Hey, Nathan, what's going on? What happened to you?" And at that point, he never responded to me, but his girlfriend wrote me back and said that Nathan doesn't know who you are. He doesn't want to talk to you, to leave him alone. And so I sent the girlfriend all these chat conversations and transcripts and whatnot that I've collected. And she showed that to Nathan. And then she claims that Nathan started acting really bizarre. And by the way, if you want me to stop, if you want to ask questions, just jump in and tell me, because otherwise I'm going to keep going.
Okay, well, we'll get the basis and then we'll interrupt.
Okay, should I keep going?
Go ahead. Keep going until we say, wait a minute, got to talk to you. Okay, go ahead.
All right, so at that point, his girlfriend reported that that Nathan was he was friends with a group of other kids just like him. And I say kids, I mean he was probably at this point maybe 21 at this point. And she claimed that they're all these friends were telekinetic, and that they were going to start the New World Order, and that they were the chosen ones, and he created some kind of cult, is what she claims. And then she said that she went into his basement and found bottles of embryos labeled Nathan Wilder that apparently the Draco put in there. Well, that was from somebody else. She didn't say the Draco part, but it doesn't make any sense why that would be there, or maybe she's delusional, or maybe she was taken to an underground base and the memories are crossing over. I don't know, because I said basement. Maybe she meant base. But
right.
She also claims Nathan, when she would wake up at night, Nathan was no longer in the bed, and that she would have needle marks on her, cut marks. She said she woke up one time, glass in her body. And she said she's going into a daze, and and that was it. She never wrote me back anymore.
Hey, James, let me just ask, did you actually hear her voice, or might this just have been a correspondence from Nathan pretending to be someone else?
Good question. I could not answer that specifically, but I did have other friends contact Nathan, and Nathan claims that the way he views it as that he had some kind of psychotic split, and he viewed me as being unstable. So he thinks that by staying away from me is good for the both of us. But I think he was heavily programmed. Apparently, Nathan and I were together at Montauk. He was in the cage next to me, according to other eyewitnesses. I don't specifically remember that. However, I do remember being at Montauk. I don't really have too much I could even share about what happened to me there. It's not even worth talking. I mean, but of course now we're jumping around here. But essentially, so that's really how it all started for me. And to this day, Nathan still won't reach out or talk to me or anything. But I've been told different things, like going into the future, I came across Adam, and Adam claimed that he started channeling this reptilian named Tian. And Tian claimed to be a scientist who worked on super soldiers. And so essentially imagine this underground base where you would have crocodile snouted reptilians with a tail sitting maybe like 8 foot tall crocodile snouted reptilians sitting at these chairs with white lab coats on, working on computers, changing the memories around in these super soldiers. And then they're working with military personnel. Now, it may not necessarily be DARPA, even though DARPA is highly connected to these groups. And it's probably not the civilian military that most people, when I say military, it's like people might think, oh, Marines, oh, Army, blah, blah, blah. No, it's not like that. It's more like private military mercenary armies. There's like 5 main groups, but I'm just going to let you get a chance to talk because I'm kind of out of breath right now. So go ahead, please.
Okay, we'll take a break. So when you say Adam, who's Adam?
Okay.
Yeah,
this is in my book as well. A Lone Wolf is a Dangerous Wolf. I have my conversations with Adam. So Adam, I met in 2010, and again, this was over the internet. He claimed that when I first met him, he said that his father would disappear at night, like a limo would come and pick him up and then bring him back. And apparently his father was in the Illuminati, and they would, because I know some people at least have reported this, where a limo would come and they would be taken to meetings, and then their memories would be wiped and they would be put back. Or it's not really being wiped. It's more like they would go into altars and the other altar, would come out their civilian altar. So he reported this kind of phenomenon, and as we're talking, then some MIBs show up at his house, and that's when Tian came out and talked to me and told me that Adam was my brother. And it's kind of complicated when I say brother. It's more like we have DNA. They created like a clones of us. They took my clone, my DNA, and they took his DNA and combined it together and made clones. So essentially, we're connected like that. We're also on the same squad in some of these missions that they send us on. But so Tian, he's the one. He actually he claims that he rebelled against these groups, and that's because they're not really allowed to talk to us, the extraterrestrials, because of the law of non-interference and so on, and karma and that and this and that. But Tian said he felt bad for us because they treat us like toys. They create our clones or us. They put us in these bases and they shapeshift us in these super soldiers, and then they don't really value us in our civilian lives. We're just instruments to be used, like tools, or in their words, toys.
Did you ever give your consent, or were you forced, or recruited at such a young age that consent meant nothing?
Good question. So now Adam was very gifted at remote viewing, so we would do hypnosis and remote viewing sessions together for a while. And one of the things I was wanting to explore, because this has come up in a couple different times when I've worked with other people on trying to get information about my so-called file. Because I know when I was born, right? But whenever we would explore this, my date of birth was being blacked out. When we could try to remote view a computer database, or even in the case of when I was able to get in contact with someone who was DOD at the Oak Ridge, and they were able to get my file. In that case, you have to have Umbra 8, I believe, or Umbra 7. I have to look it up, classification, to find out anything about me. But so when we were looking this up, Project Surrogate came up. Now, Project Surrogate is where they would take people and insert them into a surrogated family to be raised into adulthood. So I don't really know the details, what happened, how I went from who I was before I was james-rink into my current family, but it appears that I was James Martin, according to ACIO source, the Alien Contact Intelligence Organization. I was James Martin Rillsberg in the late 1970s, and I was in the U.S. Army, Delta 1, which was what basically it's the Delta Force, but they called it Delta 1. I'm not sure where Delta Force came from. I don't even think they call themselves that even today. It's just a name that was given to them. And then I died in Persia, so I'm not quite sure if they reanimated my corpse and then re-aged me or inserted me, or they took a clone of me, because there's multiple clones, and we're also talking about multiple realities. But that's essentially why I haven't really been born. It's more like just been re-aged.
James, let me suggest something to you. When you're in a place where you can do this, you don't have to look at records. If you can enter remote view in the skull of the people that were there at your birth, and their thoughts and their realities, sometimes in a deep state, you're able to remote view in other people like that. You know what I mean? You might try that sometime.
That's a good idea. I really need to do some more exploration on that certain period of my life, because I don't really recall it. My earliest memories is when I was maybe 3 years old. I can't really remember much before then, which I guess is normal for Well, I don't know if that is normal now, actually.
But it is normal. But I distinctly remember my processes of birth and a whole bunch of other stuff because of the deep work I've done, and I know that I can sense that you are totally capable of even accessing all of that on your own, just with that suggestion I gave you.
Okay.
The other thing that comes up, it's really hard for me to go past that when you mentioned fighting, and I want to know what kind of weapons you used and what your opponents were. What was that like?
Okay, so essentially, maybe we should talk a little bit about the process of what happens when they shapeshift us, because essentially, when we're turned into a super soldier, the fabric on our skin actually shapeshifts from our skin. It comes out of our skin. So we have like this skin-tight suit. Typically, it's like a black color. And then weapons would pop out of our arms, and guns and so on, and knives. As far as like specific type of weapons, I don't really have much recall about that. I mean, I've seen certain type, like, I don't know, machine guns and so on, but that was probably when I was more back in time at the Nazi era, because they would through Montauk, and actually I don't know if it was specifically Montauk. It could have been with Kruger. I know we're jumping around here. Kruger's got so much to explain. This is so complicated. I know you asked about weapons.
Kruger's a major mercenary group,
it's
right?
Okay.
Yeah. So. Right, there's 5 of them, and I'm going to try to do my best. Hopefully, I'm going to make sure I remember them this time. So there's Kruger, there is Shoreline, there's Monarch, there's the other the one that's in the French series. Oh gosh, I forgot that one's called Massive Dynamic. That's 4, I guess. DARPA, really, DARPA's number 6. There was another one. It'll probably come to me if I think hard enough. I feel bad that I can't remember that one. I'm not connected to that group. But so essentially, I've done work with Shoreline and Kruger. Now, with Kruger came Gabriel Kruger is from another parallel reality in which the Nazis won World War II. So essentially what happened is Monarch Solution is responsible for everything that's gone bad, pretty much. The worst of the worst here on this planet. They have an underground dome underneath Toronto. It's actually not. Well, I mean, an entrance comes up into the needle of Toronto, but the base itself is, I think, partly goes under the lake and so on. It's like 25 miles wide. I don't know if that's exact specific, but it would be that large. And essentially, they take children, program them, and they themselves are infested with archons. So what happened Monarch did is they created a clone of Hitler, sent him back in time, killed Hitler, replaced him with this clone, this Monarch clone, and that's when the Nazis went crazy with the genocide and the racism. Of course, they were helped along with the Nordics, and it's the whole process of that is a lot more complicated.
So he wasn't a racist before then, you're saying?
In the other parallel reality where Hitler was not replaced with a clone, they embraced the Jews, the Hebrews. They did not kill them. They had internment camps where they did not permit interracial marriage. So if you wanted to, even if let's say you were Spanish and you wanted to marry a Moroccan, that was not permitted. So they would have internment camps. Well, not it's not even a concentration camp. It's more like just a camp, or a community where you could go to and live there away from everybody else. After the Nazis invaded the U.S., they blew up the Washington Monument, and then they put in the spinning eagle with the swastika, and the eagle spins around, 150-foot tall column there. And then they also the eastern seaboard was controlled by the Germans, and the West Seaboard day was controlled by the Japanese. And then the Nazis, they embraced Tesla. They gave him an unlimited budget, and they released the free energy technologies, anti-gravity, and it's all these amazing technologies. And basically, at least those people that chose not to live in the camps, everybody was pretty much living in mansions. They had teleportation. Food was basically free. They had space travel. So essentially, in that reality, that's where Gabriel Kruger came from. He was a military contractor that worked with Hitler. So he has been.
Were you able to? Did you visit that reality? How do you know so much detail about that reality? Just by
I have some clones over there. I mean, according to Peter, anyway, one of my clones works with Tesla, and he helped create like this skin-tight armor that's bulletproof. It additionally produces electricity. If I could remember how to do that, I'd probably be rich. Unfortunately, I don't remember how to do it. And I also worked on some extremely fast jet engines, but that was back when it was first coming.
Let's look at that suit for a minute. Was that a symbiote? Was it a living thing? That
probably. I could not answer the question. I don't remember. I'm going to need some hypnosis or something to maybe go back and explore that. Because that was, again, that's not my memories. That's from another parallel reality where I exist, but my memories are not tapping into that. I had to remote view it to access it. But or at least be told by someone who's been there. But
thank you.
But there are other clones of me. There was a clone of me in Abatava. Are you familiar with that phrase? Abatava?
No. Please explain that, please.
Okay, so the Nazis set up gulags in Alaska because Alaska was kind of like this no man's land, even though I guess supposedly the Japanese probably thought they claimed it. I guess it was really mixed with the Germans and the Japs. Japanese. So they would set these internment camp, these gulags, where they would take highly gifted children that were psychic. It's essentially reprogram them in these centers where into the Nazi belief system, and they had these ruins, which is like the druid type ruins on signs all around there, and then they had polar bears that had guns, so they were like shot up with femto technology. Everything was a lot of AI going on there. I can't really recall specifically what else was going on in that facility, but I spent some time there. And I also had some other clones, so I was sent back in mission in time to infiltrate the Nazis. In particular, one of my clones was designed to replace the Fuhrer. They wanted me to be the next Fuhrer, and that didn't work out so well. I'm not quite sure how that all ended, and that would need some more exploration. But so Gabriel Kruger has been coming over to this timeline to help us. I say help us in quotation marks, but I think how all this is going to end is, at least what I've been told, is that through other survivors that have been at Montauk, when they remote view the future, they basically see this all coming to an end after George Bush Sr. dies. He's supposed to going to die at 96. Of course, he's 94 now. So apparently, of course, Senior is highly involved in these projects. I believe he's a Draco, or at least a reptilian. I couldn't really say specifically which. I know Barbara Bush, she was an insectoid, but they're highly involved in Montauk. I know James Casbolt, he's reported seeing Bush Senior. I believe Andy Perot has claimed to see Bush Senior there as well. I'm not sure what exactly his connection is, but he is high up in there, and something that was done to us is maybe we're psychically connected to this guy.
Montauk or something?
Yes, at Montauk.
I missed where he saw him. Is he kind of like holding a timeline or something, and so when he dies, it all falls apart?
Maybe. I can't answer that question, but that is a good assertion, something that really should be explored. Because there are.
Yeah, because my mother was holding a timeline, and when she died, things shifted. I mean, it was she had a portal that was open because of her.
Yeah, and it appears that we're taken outside of time, like into what they call a time freezing zone. So it is possible that you could be taken to Montauk and still live your life and then be put back in a blink of an eye. They re-age you, put you back. You're there for 10, 15 years or whatever they want you there. And it's in a time freezing zone, so it's outside the time, so there's really no way to really penetrate that area or get to access to it unless you have access to ET technology. So that's why DARPA has been working with Kruger and some of the other ones, of course, Shoreline. Shoreline's responsible for base security at Area 51. Massive Dynamic is basically what they said in the Fringe series, based out of the UK. And they work with Monarch, so they're not a good organization either. I wish I could remember the name of the other one, but essentially we have two groups.
Are you familiar with Stargate, Project Stargate? I've been told I was part of.
Well, you mean like the remote viewing project that was going on in the 90s?
It was more complex than that. It's got something to do with the and I don't know. I'm just getting like the little words like that's what I was a part of from different people and I said, what's that about? And nobody knows exactly, but they keep thinking it's just remote viewing, but it's far more complex than that. It's orchestrating people that are supposed to be together, and I ended up going under Johnson Atoll, and I'll just cut to chase. And I eventually went into like a ritual type thing down to underneath into the artificial part. From the artificial to the natural part, huge caves, and I saw a dragon. Apparently, there's like this huge mother dragon that's the size, much bigger than any dinosaur you've ever seen, and she projected a avatar to stand in front of me, and then we opened up portals and stargates and deciphered everything that was coming through. It was all simultaneously. There were 1,000 beings there, and they told me they were the Anunnaki. They're very tall. Some were 18, 19, 20 feet tall or higher. I can't tell height. It's like they're really big. Yeah. So anyway, that's part of what I was a part of. And then I had another whistleblower, super soldier, female, that said she was a part of it. We were trying to piece it together. But at a certain point, things blow up. So right now we're taking a break because it gets too intense.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, anyway, that's all I know. I just didn't know if you'd heard anything about Stargate.
Well, I mean, I've heard. I know that the Anunnakis, they're in control of a lot of these projects. They probably tell the people at Monarch what to do.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell us what you know about the Anunnaki, because I'm really connected to the Anunnaki. I apparently have a thread of NEMA, a fractal, and that runs through me, and I can download information, and I'm the peacemaker. I'm always like, come on, people, let's get along, But anyway, what do you know about the Anunnaki? Because we're trying to figure out that piece too. There's a lot of people that are now fractals of the Anunnaki. They'll say, I'm Enki, I'm Inanna, I'm Nagashita, Thoth, I'm I have a Marduk that I talk to. And they're all over the place. So we've been piecing that together.
Well, as far as a race, they're extremely advanced technologically. Apparently, they reside within Planet X. They also are very warlike. They enjoy war. However, they don't like to make war amongst themselves. They like to manipulate other races. They like to control them and to subjugate these races and to insert false belief systems. I'm not saying that's describing you, Janet, because there's another group known as the Nephilim, and they were another offshoot of the Anunnaki. And they were also extremely warlike, and they destroyed their own planet. So now they reside in a spaceship at underground bases because they got no planet of their own. And unfortunately, it appears that I'm connected with that group. So just because you maybe spent a lifetime with them, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be like that. However, those races are typically defined like that. So
yeah, I understand that they are, but it's just like humans. There's people. Wait a minute. Let me just finish my sentence, then you can take it. There are people within humanity that are the whole spectrum. You've got good, bad, ugly, evil, and enlightened and conscious. So it's every species is very complicated. But the whole polarity game creates the entire continuum. So you're going to have it in any species, the very light and the very dark, and then everything in between. Go ahead, Sasha. What were you going to say?
Another super soldier, John Teeter, talked about getting in a battle with Adapa, who was one of the Nephilim. Basically, he thinks he blew up the ship that Adapa was in, but he didn't find the body, so he doesn't know whether he really ended him. But which the story you're saying. Stuff we talk to other people, and all these stories are coming together to make a whole picture.
Exactly. Yeah. We certainly can explore this more. Did you say we need to take a break?
Oh, the break will be at the top of the hour. So I've got a couple more questions. So,
Ahmad, not just about your weaponry and your armor, but also who you faced when you were fighting.
Well, it all kind of depends because they had different avatars or different types of missions. Sometimes we would be sent off world where we would have like this silvery type cyborg skin and a silvery type suit, a glass type helmet. I have no idea why we had like this glass. We had like a bald head with a glass plate on top of it. I'm not quite sure what that's about. There would be another mission where we would be put into like a reptilian type body, and then we would be sent off. In particular, like this one mission, I was sent to Draco Prime, which is the Draco homeworld. And when I was remote viewing this, I remember seeing these tall spires like you see in the Coruscant. In the Star Wars movie, the Imperial homeworld, and Coruscant. And so what happened is I remember I walked into this building and it was like they had a list of what was going on with at least the secret space program, like how many spaceships they had, how many people they were abducting with the Greys, something like in the lines of like 5 million. I'm not sure if that's annually or. But essentially, they would have these receptacles inside these gray cyborgs. They were like basically programmable life forms created like in a vat, and then these grays would go into people's homes and extract semen, and then they would go into another home, and the semen would be in the receptacle, and they would insert it into different women, and they were just creating all these hybrids all over the place. There's a lot of children that have been created in this process, and I'm sure the government knows what's going on. Of course, they're really powerless to do anything, and I guess they don't want to scare the public, let people know that we're all being experimented upon, and it's millions. It's probably tens of millions. I would say maybe 20. Intuitively, I'm picking up 33 million in the U.S. But okay, so. All right. Essentially, and they also had these rituals they would do. These the Draco, they would create avatars. And it's similar in the movie Avatar where it's a clone body and you can project your consciousness into the clone. And they would do these sexual orgies inside these gray bodies. And then they would kill each other. And they would get this kick from doing that. And then there were some certain groups of Draco who broke away from the main world, and they created their own little sect, and they went off world, and I guess they're living in spaceships now to try to get away from all that. And it turns out now they're starting to get back into it, doing that again. It's because I don't know what it is about the Draco. They just love their blood rituals. And I don't understand it, but that's what they enjoy. So certainly in that form, I wasn't, like I said, I was a reptilian, and when I was sent on that mission, so that way they would not wreck. Obviously, you can't send a human there. They'd probably try to think about all the ways to cook them and eat them, or probably they don't even cook them; they just eat them.
Were you ever maimed, killed, or terribly injured in these fights?
There were some missions that I failed at. I died. So yeah. But they do have ways of reanimating you, so it doesn't really matter. They can also put you in regeneration tanks. I'm sure that's happened quite a bit. I can't really say I specifically recall being in regeneration tanks, but I know Ilana Gapolin, she's recalled being in these tanks. Of course, they also do re-aging They have re-aging technology that can make you young again, or whatever age they want you at. I suppose they can make you older if they wanted that too. But yeah, so as far as maybe like the process, how long it takes, I mean, it would be some kind of femto goo that would recreate the cells, and it would typically take about maybe a day or so to do that. They have technology to grow clones in a couple of hours. And I wouldn't be surprised if DARPA has access to some of this technology. Of course, they're not going to go out in the public with it anytime soon.
Kramer told us about this thing that makes the end of an arm that's been severed think it's the rest of it's still there and it grows out to meet it. Did you encounter any machine like that?
Huh. I mean, as far as what I recall in these labs, I remember the trip seats. I don't remember that specific device. I do remember these type of appendages things. It looked like this metal snake-like appendages that would come out from the ceiling, and it was like they would look like they were like needle thin. And they would attach. They would strip off the skin on my body, and they would attach these needles to each one of my muscles, and then they would put me in a virtual reality scenario where I see myself being burned on the cross or that stake. And they would have in the trip seats. They would. They were white, and they were made of this foam, or at least where you lay down on was foam like, and when you laid in it, you would sink into the foam, and then it would coat your body. I mean, not coat, but kind of surround your body a little bit, and it would kind of lock you in place so you couldn't move. And of course, that was more that femto technology as well. So, wow. They could release some of this technology to the public. Obviously, it would help. It would make disease and death obsolete, basically. And probably make God obsolete too. I suppose they probably they probably will think of that too.
Has anybody ever talked to you about the purpose or what this is all about? Anybody engage with you in your intellect, like you're an equal, even just like somebody that may have felt sorry? It's like, oh, let's tell you what's going on, that type of thing.
Well, I don't really understand the question. Well, what do you mean? Like, what's going on in general?
Yeah, the whole scenario, like that.
What's the purpose of all this?
What's it all about? Yeah, he goes back to the origin of the universe, and so in his briefing, he was told everything, or what they said was everything. They might just put part of it, but so he has this great overview because apparently he was in a position where he needed to know all that stuff. But I just wondered if anybody ever took like pity on people and gave you an idea of what's going on instead of, you're just in the middle of this thing. There's this battle. You don't even know why you're fighting.
Well, there are very few people on this planet that really know what's going on. I mean, the ACIO, they claim they know what's going on. And based on my interactions with Peter, I would have to agree with that. The NSA and the CIA do not know what's going on. Even DARPA is not really, they get like the leftovers. So like Shoreline and Kruger, they would get all the best technology, or even Monarch, unfortunately. And DARPA just get the little trinkets, and then of course the military just they don't probably get anything. So and of course there's each group has their own agenda. So when you say, well, what's going on, it's not like there's like all of us are being abducted by the same group. It all depends on which group you're talking to. And there's also groups that are outside of time, and there's groups that are from our future. There's groups in other realities. So, you know, who's doing what? It's just too complicated to say.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay, Sash.
I guess it comes down to very specific geographical questions about the moon and Mars that really interest me. Have you been on either of those places, and what did you see? What was it like?
Okay, so I've had one regression where I recall a mission on Mars, and this was with Alex Diaz. Now, and again, this story is in my book as well. Now, I met Alex probably around 2012. And then I flew out to L.A. and I met up with him. We actually did an interview together. Now he had he was AKA Bloodstreak, and my code name was AKA Sabretooth, Agent Sabretooth. So and Adam was AKA Dreadnought, and all of us together we were on Alpha Squad 45, at least in this particular memory, and. Alex was they called him Bloodstreak because he liked to use blunt weapons, and Dreadnought, Adam, he was used for bombs and that type of material. And then of course for me, I didn't remember what, I guess they had me like doing like sniping. So the thing I'm trying to get to is that when actually, I forgot what I was trying to bring with Alex. Now I know. Oh yeah, it's a mission on Mars.
Mars. Yeah.
So we were on this mission on Mars, and so when we were going down this corridor, because what actually happened, there were some reptilians that were working with human personnel, and there was an argument or a fight that something, a disagreement took place. And some of the reptilians killed some of the humans, and then so they had to send us super soldiers in to kill off these reptilians to rescue the humans. So when we got into the base, I remember, at least in the regression, remember seeing these type of alien glyphs on the wall. It turns out it was actually Keban, which is the tall grays. So I don't know why that was down there, but we met up with the reptilians, and we asked them what's going on. They said there was a disagreement, and they blamed the humans. Of course, we were told the reptilians started, but the reptilians said the humans started. So at this point, I felt we were under the impression that we were probably lied to by our commanders, that the humans probably did start this. So what we did is we opened up a portal. There was a Stargate, and we let all the reptilians go through instead of killing them. And of course, we got back to, they chastised us for that, but whatever. I'm not.
Wow.
But wait. What does chastise mean? Did they beat you up? Did they lock you up? Solitary?
I don't recall what happened with me, but I know with Alex, he says they would put us in the trip seats and they would torture us. So some of these groups would do that. But you know, it didn't really matter. At the end of the day, they wipe our memories anyway. So what difference does it make? You know, we really don't care, I guess. And while we're on these missions, by the way, we do not have any of our civilian memories. It's like if you were to think back into your past, there would be nothing there. It's like you were always a super soldier, and that's it. And you don't even think of anything else. They program you so much that way. So it's a really tough state to be in, to try to break out of that once you're there.
How did you do it?
How did I do it?
How did you break out?
You're able to talk. Yeah.
Okay, so that's a good question. Now, I did some exploring in this, and so I'm going to see if I could try to rake my memory, see if I can get it.
And I just want to give you a heads up. We are coming up on the break, so whenever we stop, we'll just continue after the break. We have 2 minutes before the break. But go ahead.
So they sent me on a mission, and I didn't do – this was back in the 80s, early 80s, I guess. And they sent me back on a mission, and I was supposed to kill somebody or do something they wanted me to do, and I didn't do it. And when they brought me back, they couldn't figure out what went wrong because I'm under total mind control. There's no way I should be able to choose what I want to do. And it scared them so much that they put me into Project Abandonment, or I guess it's called Project Abandon. And that was also in my DOD file. So Project Abandon is where they basically are defunct super soldiers that are not deemed fit for these missions. So for a while I was in that program until they could try to recuperate me. But in the end of the day, they realized they couldn't recuperate me fully. So there's always been like this, I'm so good at what I do that they keep using me. But on the other hand, they know that I have the capability of rebelling and breaking out of it all. I haven't done it yet as a super soldier, but I've done it as me. I'm sure they don't necessarily like that, but depending on which group you talk to, like Monarch doesn't like it. But it doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, we're all supposed to get our memories back and go into the fifth dimension, and everything's supposed to be a lot better for us in the future once Trump starts bringing out the truth to the public in his next term election, after the next election.
Stuart Swerdlow says that some people never, no matter what they're programmed, they remember.
Hold that thought. Yes. Let's hold that thought. We'll be back in 5 minutes after this commercial break.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
You need some more speed records in this day and age. You need coverage.
Coverage? Oh, you mean them little root weevils that crawl around popping off cameras in your face?
Those root weevils write history.
Many of you know that quote by Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men, "You can't handle the truth." Well, you can, and Event Horizons will give you those truths. So when you're mad as hell and not going to take it anymore from that memorable CNN network, you'll know just what to do. We will draw you in and become your news addiction at Event Horizons. Join us Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern Time at freedomslips.com. Revolution Radio. Our world team members are Dennis Fetcho, John Ilias, David Dunger, Hyla Cass, MD, Melanie Richton, Jim Mars, Paula Harris, John Trallo, Maria Payan, Christopher Husser, DODDS, Jonathan Orchard, and me, your anchor, Dr. Robin Falco.
If you decide not to volunteer, it will not be held against you in any way.
Sounds dangerous. It is. Very dangerous. Count me in.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps. Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it. I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
In breaking news, a visiting Syrian diplomat reported today that their population is evolving rapidly and advancing into a 5th dimensional consciousness. They are seeking peace with all cosmic cultures, which may mean that the Earth will be asked to join the prestigious Galactic Federation of Light Alliances. Please join Debbie West and Michael Hathaway on Lost Knowledge, Saturdays, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in Studio A, for the latest breaking news on the Star Visitors' peaceful contact and the ongoing project of cleansing the Earth.
This is the people's war. It is our war. We are the fighters. Fight it then. Fight it with all that is in us. And may God defend the right.
Warning! Warning!
We gotta stop them! They're gonna kill us all! See how the trouble you've started? Be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. Time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported talk radio station, throwing ourselves upon the gears of the machine. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
You called down the thunder, well now you got it. Right! You tell them I'm coming! And hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
Revolution Radio!
Join Revolution Radio every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio B for Momentary Zen with host Zen Garcia at freedomslips.com, the People Station.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Aloha and welcome back. and I'm your host, Janet Lessin. I'm here with my co-host, Dr. Sasha Alex Lessin, and our guest today is James-Rink, and our producer is Mad Painter Thomas Becker. But before we get back to our show, I'd like to remind everybody to please go over to that donation button on revolution.radio and make your donation. And we really need your donation to stay online here, to keep bringing you these shows. So, Mad Painter, how are we going? How are we doing?
We need 2,600, and we got 1,635. It's the 15th, and we're a little above halfway, so I think we're doing pretty good.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much, everybody, for your donation. So, I wanted to bring on Dr. Lessin before we bring back James, but at the break, we were going to go into the positive things that are going to happen. And then during the break, we're talking about, wow, see, I want to get out of this negativity. I'm bored. I'm bored with the wars. But, I guess this whole continuum and the polarity gives a lot of souls and beings something to do. Otherwise, what would they do? Play harps all day? So let's talk about that. Sasha, Dr. Lessin, what would you like to talk about in the second half of the show?
Well, it appears from our interview that S below, so above, and vice versa. It's always the best of times and the worst times. But the reality is this is the best show you've got. Matter of fact, it's the only show. It's also the worst show you got. So I think that, when you look at what's going down, you can say, good show. Thank you. I can dig it.
So, James, from your perspective, what do you think of all this?
Well, there's a lot to think about. What in particular do you want me to think about or comment about?
Oh, whatever bubbles to the top of your brain and pops out. And we'll ask a Mad Painter this question, too.
Right.
So,
I asked the unfinished question for me was, what's it like on Mars? And the other question, did you have missions on the moon?
Well, he could go back to that. But
all right.
Answer the question. Yeah, we'll go back to those things. Okay, go ahead.
I did another regression with Penny Bradley, and in this one we actually worked together because she recalled a mission with on Mars. She was a pilot on one of these scout ships or some kind of troop transport, and we got off on Mars, and there was a bunker that actually went underground. There were no windows, and I was wearing it was like sandy colored camo. I was a super soldier, and I did have a backpack that had the words Kruger on it, and it looked like the letters were gold color, and it was like in a U. The Kruger was kind of, I think it was an inverted U. I don't know, I have to go back to my notes, but it was curved like that. And Penny, in the regression, she went up to me and she said, I'm Penny Bradley. I'm working with James-Rink in a regression on planet Earth right now. We want to just talk to you and ask you some questions. And then she said that I turned around and told her to F off. And I walked away. And I apologized to Bradley. I told Penny, I'm so sorry. I'm not like that, but when I'm under all this AI tech, it's not really me. It's just, somewhere I'm in there, but it's like my body's controlled by something else. There was another experience when back in March, when the Monarch children were rescued from the underground bases in the Slovak and Czech area. I got to talk to some of these people that were rescued, and one of them recalled a relationship that I had when I was on the moon. Now, I do remember being on the moon, but my memories were kind of confusing because I recall working on a computer, and I remember going into a room where we see these old mainframe computers, and it just didn't make sense. It's like, but I think what was going on is that they must have sent me back in time, because they have the technology to re-age you and put you back in time anyway. They can send you back to anywhere, and you could be having multiple experiences in the same timeline. I could be fractured so many times as is. So in that one, I remember.
Yeah, what's the mission?
Okay, so that one, I was talking at this time. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and mention the story about John.
Okay.
John, I met him probably around 2012 or so. Became really good friends, and I mentioned some of my memories on the moon, and he said he remembered me there too because he was there with me. He claims. He said that in this particular base, we went into the Stargate portal to another parallel reality on planet Earth. This was a reality because we were trying to get some photos from his childhood, because apparently what happened is that John claims that when he was younger, he remembers crawling underneath the desk in the White House. And he said that later on he was put into an adopted family, and he grew up on a military base. But him and his sister Caroline were replaced after they killed the Kennedys with I don't know who the surrogates now are. Obviously, John Jr. was murdered, but so my friend was actually the real John Jr. And so what they actually did is that in the timeline where the Kennedys were not assassinated and he was allowed to live out his childhood, that timeline became invaded by the Mantoids, and there was a nuclear war. I believe it happened in the 1980s, early 80s. That timeline, it was that actually self-destructed. That's why at Montauk they allowed Kennedy to be killed. Unfortunately, as bad as it was, it actually created a better timeline for us. But so we went into this parallel reality where we went to this bunker. There was I recall seeing like 2 feet of water. I guess it was frozen outside. It's like a nuclear winter. And then we grabbed some photos, but the Mantoids show up, and we got out of there, just barely got out of there before we could get some more photos. And he was actually angry at me because he wanted to get some more photos of his childhood.
Oh. That
he never really got to have because they switched him out. And I really felt sorry for John because he died back in 2017, I think, probably last November.
Oh.
He had a heart condition. Of course, a lot of the Kennedys had heart problems anyway. The whole story was so tragic. I really feel sorry for him. And nobody really knows. Nobody really knows what happened to the real ones. And I personally believe him because first of all, I do remember being at that base. So anyway, and I do remember seeing the corridors. It looked kind of like it was angulared on the roof. On the ceiling area, and I think it was flat on the bottom. It was all white, and I remember a dome. I'd walk into a dome where you could see the stars, and then the doors would open up like in Star Trek on their own, like that. Mm-hmm. But I still never quite understood the tape drives, the old computer tape drives, what that was about. But I did see like screens that had like that old green colored. Screens, computer screens from probably like early 80s, probably maybe even 70s when they had that. So
James, let me ask you a very specific question about Luna, because one of the astronauts who was on the lunar surface, and official astronauts, when the program started wearing off and he started painting, he was a painter, and then he started painting all these colors, and then he recalled that the sun was hitting all these glassy domes and making colors all over the moon. And I wonder if you observed anything like that.
In this particular, I don't remember that because I just remember being inside the base, not outside on the surface. So I can't really be able to tell you what that was like. But I certainly believe that's probably I believe NASA is lying to us about what's on the surface of the moon. I do not think we actually went there, or maybe we did go there, but what we saw on TV or YouTube now, the clips from the Apollo missions are actually staged from Stanley Kubrick's 2001 set, which is probably why they killed him. So there's a lot that really needs to be disclosed to the public, and maybe that's why Trump created the Space Force. But we'll have to see what the timeline brings us.
Yeah, Carter had also created, he called it a Delta Force 2, to go in and rescue some of the women from the brothel under Dulce, so that with the idea that the president has his own force that isn't part of the military command has been around a while.
Well, I might have been there because I was part of that Delta 1, the Delta Force, when that was all created.
Wow.
I don't recall that. That's a good point. You brought that up. I should investigate that because that would have been around the time. Wasn't that in 79 when that took place?
And so we know that Mark Richards was driving that new helicopter, the great new, and we also
he was
know
on that mission.
Yes, he was. And the astronaut who died, Onizuka, was a leader of another team. And that they were all in on this, and and President Carter said, I don't want the CIA to know what you guys are doing because they're going to mess it up.
Yeah, right. Okay, that's curious.
So
brought that up. I'm gonna need to investigate that.
I just know that if you slow it down, I can already tell what kind of mind you have. If you slow it down, you're going to get a lot of it back.
Yeah, I mean, I've been told by multiple psychics I'm supposed to get my memories back this year, and then another year goes by, and another year. So I'm not quite sure what the deal is. I think
we'd love to work with you if you want us to help you. I mean, not on the live.
I would love that. Yeah. So
we'd love to work with you.
I think what's going on here is that the benevolent groups are more positive factions. You could really say. I wouldn't call any of these groups benevolent, but everybody has their agenda. It appears they don't really want us to get our memories back because we have been through so much horrible stuff that we would probably be hospitalized or something worse, or maybe one of our super soldier alters would come out and then they would have to send the MIB in, erase the memories and this and that. It just create a mess. So I think they're
absolutely. If you've done things that the person you are right at this moment is horrified with. You're a human who would feel overwhelming guilt. Nichols talks about the whole thing. It's like you can't do it all, or it'll overwhelm you. It's got to be when you're ready.
Okay, makes sense. All right.
But you can do a little at a time, and then when you get, you're going to say it's too much. Just like you told Penny. To F off, right? So
I tell you where it all leads, James, is there isn't any other. That you are whoever you think other is also, but that's takes a while to get there.
Okay. Well, I do want.
You're simultaneously existing on all levels and all dimensions. So you're aware of some of your fractals and some of your clones and some of your simultaneous existences. But there's a point where you become aware of it all. But then that's overwhelming. So you choose what memories to bring in to remember. Otherwise, you can't exist in 3D physicality. It's just too much. It's overwhelming.
Yeah, that makes sense. I agree with that.
Yeah. Wow. So you remember being part of this Delta Force. See, we're in the middle. We've interviewed all these people. We just had Stuart Squared on a couple of weeks ago, and we've talked to Preston and talked to Joanne Richards. She's going to be at our conference. And anyway, we're going to piece all this together at the Stargate to the Cosmos conference in Albuquerque in October. And so we're interviewing all the secret space program people. So you're saying a lot of things that other people are reporting, and I don't see anything that's really off the mark with what we're already hearing from all these different people.
You had a very similar.
Go ahead.
You get you and Kevin Trimmel had the similar kind of value to the to whoever was out there that you could. Empathize with and sort of get the information from aliens.
Yeah, well, I know. I mean, certainly it appears that there were some reptilians that were helping us It appears actually that the ones that are more likely to help us were some of these benevolent reptilians, not necessarily the Draco groups, but even like some of the Palladian groups, they were bad as well. The 12D plates with Semiyase. So whenever you hear somebody channeling the Palladians and they talk about the 12D Palladians, those are the negative ones. They're trying to control us. And then there's other groups out there. I'm trying to recall this specific one, but so everybody has their own agendas, and I really don't think we can count on the extraterrestrials to save us or rescue us. I mean, they certainly maybe are doing something with the environment to keep us all alive and not destroying the planet, which is good, but I don't think they're going to intervene in this particular situation. Because I know, for instance, like the Andromedans, they are extremely advanced technologically. However, they view humans as scary, warlike, and so they don't want anything to do with us, and they're also pacifists. So when, like, for instance, there was a mission that I was sent on recently to rescue some Andromedan children that were in an underground base. So instead of the Andromedans using their own super soldiers, which there are none because they don't make any, because they're pacifists, they had to ask Kruger to go in to intervene and say, could you use some of your super soldiers? And of course Kruger is going to do that. And Kruger, on the other hand, they have a vested interest to keep us in the state that we're in, because they don't want to lose control of us either, because they're using us on these missions to rescue people. So there's no group out there that really has our own best interest in mind, except for maybe this ACIO. I suppose Kruger, they I don't know if you consider the Nazis are here to help us, but apparently they have their own intentions too.
That's a turnaround. Yeah. Well, it's obviously so complex, That's why I say that it's really difficult to just lump everybody into a species, and because they're individual souls, and you're coming down into a planet, and you have to have your life there, and your soul essence may be completely different than the situation you find yourself in, but you're there for some reason that you decided to come down, and maybe you're here to rescue, or maybe you're here to try to change it, or maybe you're here just to observe it.
Yeah.
Be the historian.
When you think about Dulce, one of the things that is that a reptilian came in at a critical moment with his craft and was instrumental in the escape. So that's confirming the kind of thing you're saying about the diversity. But this reptilian was evidently from Agartha, from under the Earth base. Yeah.
Well, like I said, reptilians are usually they're the scientists in these projects. The human personnel are not. According to the reptilians, they're not smart enough to figure out how to make super soldiers. So, of course, they've been doing this for millions of years. And then most of these reptilians, they view us as toys, something to be used. Some of them become attached to us, and then some of them are rebels, like Tian was. And then ultimately what happened with Tian is he broke off into a different group, which the Spitrones 222 is what he called it, I believe. It's in my book. And he says that he's trying to find another way to bring down the system, but evidently they killed him as well. And this group reanimated his dead body, I guess. That's apparently is what he claims. So death doesn't have the same level of permanence as it does here on planet Earth. It's more like calling up the cable repair guy. It's equivalent for the ETs.
Here, come fix this. Well, that's very interesting, yeah. And that's part of the grand experiment, is that we perceive it as such a permanent thing, but it's actually not. And okay, so let's go back to something you said before the break. You said that Trump is creating some kind of program, the space branch of the military. And so if the official story is that we don't have any space presence, what does that mean? Is he going to reveal what's been going on all along? Is he going to fabricate something like, we've just accelerated this program. We have all this new technology. I mean, what do you think is going on? What's your sources say? Well, what do you think?
I know Anthony Zender, who is another super soldier from Kruger, and, as well as Alana Kopoling. Those two have actually recalled a meeting in outer space, which they were brought into, and which Donald Trump was brought there to discuss ways of bringing about disclosure. Now, I don't know if Donald Trump remembers this either. They probably erased his memories, so I don't know. I'm not quite sure. Couldn't comment on that. But I can say that it does appear disclosure will be taking place in the second term of his presidency, as well as the free energy and many of these suppressed technologies. And it also appears the head of Monarch Solutions, Paul Serene, will be killed. I'm not quite sure who does it or when, but he's not going to be around much longer either. And once we get rid of Monarch, then Dark Fleet will come down too, because Dark Fleet is another group that works with Monarch. Dark Fleet are the Nazis from our timeline that teamed up with the negative Draco Reptilian, and they're off-world, past Mars, into this solar system and so on, have their bases. So they're gonna. I'm not quite sure what's going to happen to them, but I know that Monarch is not going to be around much longer.
And do you have any insight as to what's going to happen? You said earlier something about when Bush Sr. dies, something changes. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
So that's about 2 years away. So yeah, it's all going to be around that same time.
And so you think he'll just die of natural causes because he's old? Or do they die? We're talking about how death is not really the same meaning.
Yeah,
do they die, or does he just go into his other form?
He might be a clone. I mean, who the original might be on ice somewhere. So I considering the way these reptilians and Draco operate, I would not be surprised if that's probably just a clone, and the original is somewhere else. And
what about Trump and Obama? Are they all clones, and Hillary?
I've heard that they were. As far as Trump is concerned, I do not know specifically what the situation is. What that is, I would like to think that I know Trump got rid of a lot of his Secret Service when he got in the White House. I'm sure that he's working with the Anon groups from the military, and I'm sure they know about the cloning issue. Maybe there's some kind of technology to recognize whether or not that's actually the original Trump. But apparently Trump is working with the ACIO now. I did write him a letter last November, and I did get an encrypted response. So we talked about that in the last interview that I did. So Trump is well aware of Super Soldier Talk, and so is the Secret Service. But I'm harmless. I'm peace loving.
Well, tell us a little bit more about that. So you wrote to him, and you got an encrypted, and we didn't quite answer like how he's going to do this with the space program. He's going to miraculously have new technology or reveal what's already existing. So, go ahead.
Well, this information has been relayed to me by Peter, so I'm just repeating what Peter has told me. So I handed the letter over to Peter, and his team of encryptors claim that there was the NSA wanted to have a meeting with them in which they discussed a CyberLife's takeover of Detroit, and this has been featured in Detroit Become Human video game, which apparently is based on the real reality. So in that video game, CyberLife Systems or Corporation creates these androids that eventually become self-aware, and they declare they want their freedom from being treated as slaves. But according to what's really apparently what CyberLife was set up in 1991 is there's an underground base where they're creating these androids that have insectoid DNA. So they are biological androids that have like a hive mindset, and these androids are purchasing properties in Detroit, so that now the 30% of the population of Detroit represents these beings, and essentially they're taking over that whole city. And now the Trump administration is concerned because they're worried that it's going to spread to other areas. So they were asking the ACIO for assistance in the matter, because you can't really just go in there and first of all, you can't tell the public, oh, by the way, Detroit has been infested with androids, insectoids from CyberLife, and it's all real. And by the way, there's aliens. And so we talked about that in the last interview about how to recognize the difference between a human and one of these androids, and something about who handles the drug money or something. I didn't quite. Peter, sometimes he jumps around so much. I really need to investigate that some more. But yeah. So I guess that. So apparently, that's the type of stuff that President Trump actually has to worry about and deal with. Of course, if you ever watch the news media and you see all the talking pundits and they talk about some of the most mundane things compared to what's really going on, like you can kind of see why the elites kind of look down on the little people. But I don't really think Trump is the same. He is Illuminati. But I don't think he is necessarily like going along with their agenda. He's got his own agenda that's working with the ACIO and some of the
Well, then let's look at like who are the Illuminati. So they're the power families, and the power families are all part of the Anunnaki, correct?
Yeah. So we're talking about the reptilian bloodlines. They're trying to keep their power from Atlantis. Yeah, but a lot of that's fading away, and even with their own groups, they all consume each other like a bunch of alpha dogs. So it's not
right. Yeah, they do.
Unified mindset. Well,
you look at the story of Eki and Enlil and Marduk and all that. Everybody, they've had their wars, they had their differences. They kill each other, they get resurrected, and nothing's changed in hundreds of thousands of years. So it's the same old thing. So then, if you look in terms of the Anunnaki story, then who is Trump? Is he an Enlilite or an Enkiite? There's the two main tribes that have been polarized. What do you think?
I can't answer that. I don't know. I'll let you decide.
Okay. Well, I can't quite figure it out. But anyway, what do you think, Sash?
I think you have a proclivity toward dichotomization.
Okay. I was just. Of course I do. I'm in the dichotomy. I'm here. I'm human. I'm experiencing it. All right. Well, okay. Where do you want to go? We've got half an hour. Go ahead.
Yeah. So what we could look at is maybe more of the Nazi timeline, because I do want to mention that apparently Donald Trump is high up in the Nazi party in that other reality. I'm not saying not in this reality, but the Nazi-controlled reality. And Trump, he really loves his job there. But that doesn't necessarily mean he's racist. What it means is that he's considered like the governor of this region on the East Coast. For, of course, I live in North Carolina. But in this particular scenario, what's going on? Like apparently, the Germans, the Nazis prohibited English to be spoken on the streets. You're only allowed to speak German publicly. So some people were speaking English, and some of the police force they would have these batons with like a cattle prod stick on it, where they electrocute people. And some of these people were getting shocked and injured or maybe even killed. And so Trump was commenting to the Fuhrer that we need to just cut this out, just let people talk the language that they want to talk, because you're just going to make people angry and they'll rebel. So they have a good thing going on where everybody has money. The minimum wage is $40 an hour. People hardly have to work like 3 or 4 hours a day because there's so much advanced technology. Their computers are extremely advanced. They're to the point where their internet is actually implanted. The computers are implanted into their mind, so that everybody's hooked up to the internet anyway.
Is that a good thing?
Well,
hooked up to the internet.
Well,
I mean, really, we're all bored.
When you start looking at transhumanism, see, the problem that we're going to be dealing with is if you're a CEO of a company or you want to get ahead of your competition, you're going to want to do everything that you possibly can to get ahead. So that means you're probably going to have to get this brain implant to get hooked up into this internet so you are constantly in access. So next thing you know, everybody's going to really want to plug into it, except, maybe there's a few people that don't trust it. So you're going to have the haves and the have-nots, and as we're going into the future, we're going to see more of that. But the good news is that once these advanced technologies come out, we could choose. There'll be so much abundance and prosperity that we could choose to live our lives the way we want to live it, which is really what we should be having now. But obviously, they don't allow that to happen.
Okay. Well, I don't think I want to be bored, but who knows? Okay, we have this alternative reality. Now, it's not limited to just one, though, right? Every variation on the theme exists.
Well, there's another reality where Atlantis didn't fall into the sea. And in that reality, the ACIO traveled over there and got some building samples of this type of marble material that they used to build these buildings. And when they brought it back to their lab to experiment on it, they could not cut it. There was nothing that would cut it. Of all their advanced technology that even the ACIO has, they could not cut this material. So they're going to have to go back over there and get some cutting tools. And probably they use telekinesis or something, because I couldn't imagine how in the world some extremely advanced femtotech that could do that. But in that reality, the language was really, I'm trying to remember what it was, something like it was Syrian mixed with Anunnaki and some other really weird languages. But yeah, so I think things worked out a lot better, obviously, for them. They managed to solve their differences without cataclysms and destroying their tectonic plate. But there's other realities too, like, for instance, there's one where the Umbrella Corporation, which is like the Monarch Solutions, but Umbrella, by the way, those two work together, obviously, even though they're in other parallel realities. Umbrella created the Ouroboros virus, and in that reality, there was a lot of alien hybrids, humans that had alien hybrid DNA, and these alien hybrids were very negative, kind of violent and abusive. So they were trying to find ways to create a virus that would go out there and alter parts of the DNA of these particular hybrids to reduce their aggression. So they released this virus out into the public, and what happened? A crocodile became infected. It mutated, and then it bit a human, and then that human became a zombie, and then it spread over the entire planet, and then there was a zombie apocalypse. And so that apparently is real. That's why we see so many zombie movies and zombie TV shows, because subconsciously we, on a subconscious level, know that that's real, even though our conscious mind says, no, that's a joke. That's just Hollywood or whatever. But
what does that mean that somebody gets zombied? What happens to them physically, biologically?
That's a good question. Now, I know I interviewed one guy. He remembers what happened when he got, I'm gonna say, bit by a zombie. There was a group of kids, and they were testing them, their psychic abilities, and there were some zombies in the room, and he got attacked by one, and he remembers when he got infected, his vision became red, and then he just started to zone out, and next thing you know, his soul is outside of his body watching his physical vessel become a zombie. So I can't say it's actually a pleasant process, but apparently it is real.
So you get kicked out of your body, but you don't get to go on to somewhere else. You're kind of stuck in limbo.
Well, he was part of these projects where they were. I believe he was actually in a clone avatar body. He was probably remotely projecting. So for his particular situation, it's probably different. As far as the Ouroboros in this timeline, apparently there was a case where there was a case in Miami, and I wonder, I haven't investigated this, but there was a guy that they found him along the highway, and he was like eating somebody's face. I don't know if you remember this story.
I remember that.
That's when it was supposed to start.
He was a zombie.
So I don't know if they were able to contain it, but Peter did say that the people in this timeline are more positive. So this is an important thing to actually mention, because it appears our own thoughts are affecting our reality. So by the way that we act or respond to people or to ourselves, if we're more positive, we will attract a more positive outcome on reality. But if we're more negative, abusive, and violent, then that's what we get more of that, because reality is about what gives you happiness and joy in life, and you manifest through your heart chakra, through what gives you joy. And unfortunately, there are people out there that get joy by being violent, abusive. There are people that get joy from being in a religious, cultish mindset. And so they're going to go on to their own multidimensional parallel reality where they can manifest more of that, and so on for everybody. So it's all different. Okay, so we talked about Monarch. Umbrella. No, there's a lot more realities out there. Of course, the Nazis.
Yeah, let's. I just want to go back a little bit. So, in a way, you can control your own reality by adjusting your attitude into more kind, loving, and joyous. And then you'll get more. It's kind of like the law of attraction and action. You'll get more of what you're putting out there. That'll be what you draw into your reality. Is that what you're saying?
It's not the law of attraction. It's the law of magnetism. You magnetize that which you are.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes sense. So we're not just pure victims. We do have some choice in all this.
Well,
yeah,
I'm going to say
it's.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, sweetheart.
Okay, well, it's apparent that what we really have, when I made my remark about not dichotomizing, is to extend empathy, or like you're saying, James, from open your heart chakra, so that the apparent other, no matter how violent his impulses or words might be, you can ask what need is motivating them. And it comes down to probably a need for recognition and admiration. Gee, you're a great drag. But what I'm saying is to feel our oneness with everything and everybody, instead of making them an other that is we can't identify or empathize with.
Okay, that certainly makes sense.
Okay. So, where were we? I'm getting lost now. Sasha, pull us back on track.
I could talk a little bit about the victimhood.
Well, exploring all the different realities that you have gone down these timelines, and they're all each fascinating.
Right. And I remember Alexandra Bruce, who wrote the book about the Philadelphia experiment, she reported that there were the various timelines, and that book was written in the late 90s, I think. So this kind of correlates with what she reported, and I'm not sure what her source was, but she had some kind of inside track because she's closely related to the Kennedys or something. She went to school with John, so here we go back to John, and had some insights based on what their family knew, and being in that inner circle.
Right.
Okay, so, timelines. You've experienced all these things.
Well, some of them, I do recall some memories of being in the Nazi timeline. I have remote view or worked with remote viewers and some regression and so on to explore the parallel reality with Umbrella Corporation, well, at least where I am, my state apparently. My DNA, because I'm ET. My DNA was immune to the Ouroboros, but they tried mutating me in other ways, turn me some creature with some kind of wings or something. The whole thing was really weird. I can't really go into it right now too much, but yeah. So a lot of us are over there, and we're living multiple lives at the same time. And if you feel a certain connection to certain beings or entities like the dolphin people or dolphin races, you might be connected to Sirius, or of course some people feel connected to Andromedans or the plates, hopefully not the 12D plates, but if you are, more love and light to you. Hopefully you can break free from them too, because they're also some of the problem is that our reality is so abusive and so controlling that abuse has gone through reality, and it's almost like a virus. It's infected us so much to the point where we think that we have to that we think it should be part of our life. And unfortunately, the higher up beings that are in control of this reality, people like some of the 12D plates and Semiosse, and even going up into the numbers group, some of these beings are actually immune to the laws of karma. So they're able to do whatever willy-nilly they want. And there's been no repercussions, and God has allowed this to take place. I guess I'm not quite sure. It appears God is in cahoots with these people. I'm not trying to say there's this or that, but it's just it seems like the whole situation is extremely unfair. These people need to be held accountable for what they've done to humanity, but unfortunately, nobody wants to do anything about it. The ETs don't want to get involved. Certainly the people in the numbers group, they don't want to get involved. I mean, they are involved. They're controlling us, but or at least some of the aspects of Monarch and so on. So there, like I said, there's just so much interactions. Really, the best thing you could do is just be positive. If by being positive, you can make your life more positive. So and learn too. That's why you want to listen to the Super Soldier Talk and shows like this, so you can enlighten yourself and hopefully your friends and family around you, if they're willing to listen to this stuff. And of course, a lot of people think it's bunk, but it's, of all the years that I've explored this stuff, the same facts are coming up over and over again, and figures, and some of the memories were cross-correlating with each other. And I just don't see how this could be just some giant delusion, especially when you're waking up in the middle of the night. I mean, waking up in the morning with triangular-shaped scabs and needle marks. That's not something that can just be made up, which I've had for years, and I still get them.
Yeah, and it's interesting.
It's obvious you've been trained and conditioned and gone through experiences to bring you right to this time where you're explaining the larger reality in which we exist. You can, the adversity. You're saying, like God must be in league with these black hats, but if the universe is orderly, one of the things Russell Brittinger says is the purpose of all this strife is that to get us to the intellectual level where we can use artificial intelligently, and then you've raised the whole question about whether the Cylons in Detroit are creatures worthy of respect and integration too, and they obviously can breed with us. Anyway, so you've really blown our mind, and I love what you're doing, and it's really stimulating, and I want to thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So let's see, we went over Dark Fleet a little bit, and then so there's other groups. So this is all part of the Secret Space program. There's the Alliance group, which is a reaction to Dark Fleet. Of course, they're supposedly trying to bring about disclosure. Now, I don't see them doing that because they have their own interests. And then there's another group called Solar Warden. they're controlled by the Rothschilds or the secret space program that's off this planet. And I don't see them coming forward really helping us. So ultimately, it doesn't look good. So I don't know what to tell you. This is why it makes things so hard.
I think they need us just the way we are. We serve as their military to some of the species, and we're slave labor and sex labor and food, and we're a resource. And there's no what do you call it, motivation to do anything else with us besides what they're already doing.
Yeah. Well, one of so somebody has contacted me that remembers being on Mars. He was Super Tech DSF. So that is on my website, Super Soldier Talk. You can check that out. His testimony or story. And he said that they abducted him when he was 6 years old. They took him out of time to a base on Mars where they would subject him to he was put into some kind of dormitory setting, and of course, a lot of the children there were they had like a bully mentality, as abusive, and they told him that planet Earth was destroyed in a cobalt bomb attack by the aliens. So now his job was to train to become this super tech to run a spaceship to go out and attack a bunch of aliens like pirates and steal their technology and bring it back to Mars for their projects and programs for their advancement. So they essentially they've been doing this. They spend about 20 years in the what you call a 20-year back program. And then afterward, during this time, once a week, they would be put onto a table, get a scan like this, an injection. So they were mapping the aging process, and then they would put on. So then he said at the end of his 20-year term, the Nazi scientist pulled him aside and told him that I'm sorry, I just turned the microphone off because everything's recorded there. We're going to send you back in time. Planet Earth hasn't been destroyed, by the way, and we're sorry about this. And then so he was sent back, and then he had a lot of PTSD-like symptoms until he started getting his memories back. And I've been trying to get him to come forward as well. So these stories are just are becoming more and more common out there for a lot of people that have had these experiences. And it really needs to be recognized. These people that have been through these traumas, and they need to be given the recognition and appreciation for what they've gone through, and to not be abused by the psychiatric system and so on in this country, or even just heckled, just sharing their experiences, because it's not really fair for them. They suffered horribly through the trauma and torture during their period of the secret space program, some of them anyway, and then they come back and they're mistreated as well. So
I think there's some money of them too, that they have put their time in, and they should be compensated because they need money down in this planet, and they're entitled to it. That's what it seems to me, that you guys deserve some bucks from all the work you did.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought that up, because what they actually do to some of these scientists, I think this was during the brain drain of the 1970s and the Alternative 3, when they're collecting a bunch of scientists to bring them back to Mars, is that they would tell them that if you join this program, we'll take care of your family. You'll be given lots of money, and then afterward, you get to work on amazing research. But what ends up happening is they fake their death, and then they don't give any money to the families, and then they get trapped on these underground bases, and they can't ever leave. And of course, they're not getting paid anything at all. But not that it really matters, because they have their own breakaway civilization. And you've got like food replicators, teleportation, all this. Why would you need money? Why would you need to go out in the public sector anyway to buy stuff? So, yeah, the whole mindset of money really needs to come to an end and replace with something better. And that would also help with disclosure as well.
What do you think is better? You've obviously been a part of other systems. I was on a military base, and I didn't need any money. That's why people would go out of the military base once they retired, if they were civilian, and they could come out with $1 million in their pockets, right? Because all they did was save and invest their money the whole time, and they would be there 20 years. So what are the other systems for money?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up.
You're seeing.
Yeah, I've talked to people who have remote view of the future, and some of this what's being reported back is I'm going to try to. Of course, nothing is exact in the timeline where you can change it by just talking about the future. But I think it's around 2055 is when we stop using money. So it appears we go to the U.S. dollar implodes, and then we go to crypto coin for a short period. And then we go into something better, and I think that might have to do with some kind of birth certificate bond instead of it being controlled by the bankers and the government to spend willy-nilly on their underground bases and their secret space program. That's returned back to the people. Are you aware of the birth certificate bonds? You know what I'm talking about?
That, yeah.
So that's what they're using. The money is actually to fund. Initially, it was funded with that. Now they're all self-funded because they're breakaway civilization. So once that gets returned back to the people, it will be similar to what it was like in the Nazi parallel reality, where we have all this amazing technology, except we have our freedoms too, and we have the United States of America, which is kind of nice. It is nice to be American.
That would be nice, yes. Okay, we have about 2 minutes. You want to tell people how to reach you? About 1 minute. How to reach you? Your
visit
show, all that stuff.
Great. Yeah, please visit supersoldiertalk.com to learn more about my labs and some of the interviews. All my interviews are on there, as well as visit neologicaltech.com to support the work I do financially. I make and produce these meditation cubes to help people relax. Okay, your book.
What's your
book? Next time. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you very much. Much love and blessings and aloha. Thanks for joining us today.
Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message. Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Any commercial advertising you may hear in this program is of the sole discretion and benefit of the host of whose program you are listening to. Revolution Radio does not endorse any commercial products, nor does it accept monetary compensation for on-air advertising of commercial products, nor will it ever. We are and shall remain 100% listener supported. Any product advertising on this program are considered used at higher risk, and Revolution Radio shall not be held liable for any claims or damages received from any product advertised within this program. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Thanks for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we are listener-sponsored and commercial-free, but there still are bills to pay. In order to raise some needed funds to cover the cost, our station is offering a silver special. In the continental United States for a $60 donation, or in Alaska, Hawaii, or Canada for a $70 donation, we will send you an uncirculated 2018 1-ounce pure silver Eagle. The $70 donation, the extra 10 is to cover shipping, by the way, outside of the continental United States. When making the donation, you must put Silver Eagle promo in the notes on the donation. And thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at revolution.radio and freedomslips.com. Without you, there is no us. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Take a look around, kid. What do you see? Homes being foreclosed,
People working 2-3 jobs just to put food on the table and still drowning in debt. Don't get me wrong. This country was founded on great ideals and principles. They've all been ruined by the banks. Open your eyes to the banks that are robbing you. You know who my favorite president was? Oh, Thomas Jefferson. Because he saw all of this coming and tried to stop it. He fought the banks. JFK too, and they killed him for it. The banking institution is more dangerous than an army, he said. He also said that every generation needs a revolution, Jimmy. The American dream is just that. Just a dream. War is a continuation of politics, only by other means. Politics is a continuation of economics by other means. This is our bank. This is our war.
Have you heard? Metro by T-Mobile now includes Amazon Prime. Yes, enjoy the best of shopping and entertainment, movies, TV shows, music, free shipping, and much more. All included for just $40 per line for 3 lines. All on the T-Mobile network. Discover the smarter way. Metro by T-Mobile. That's genius. One offer per account. Offer subject to change. $12.99 per month value. Offer valid for new Amazon Prime members. Metro customers may notice reduced speeds versus some T-Mobile customers. Video at 480p. Capable device required. See store for details and terms and conditions.